Hey everyone, it's Hannah. I wanted to quickly ask if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way in getting the show in front of other listeners. If you listen on a platform that doesn't do reviews, please follow us on social media, like the show, or leave a comment. Thank you. We love you guys, and we hope you enjoy the show. You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katie. And we can hear ourselves.
Yay! And now we're freaking out about that.
It's because Jarek's not here to
No.
I don't know. I mean, Hannah was messing with settings on the computer. At one point, it was, terrifyingly echoey. It seriously sounded like I was shouting up at her from a well.
Oh, man. I know. And, I was texting Jarek. He's doing a one-shot right now down at Casual Nerd.
By one shot, she means Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Which I wanted to mention last week on the podcast that I played for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
He's very excited about that. And he's been showing your video to all of his D&D buddies.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I'll definitely play again to, finish our story.
Yeah.
And I might play again, sporadically throughout the future. I don't think it's ever going to be my thing.
Yeah.
I would enjoy, sitting and watching other, seasoned players.
Yeah.
Especially if they've been, on a campaign for a long time or whatever. And, they all know what they're doing and what they can do. And, that was my biggest thing. I'm okay, I know it's, an open world thing, but, how open is the world? What can I do? And, where is the line?
Yeah.
You know?
You're you say anything, but what do you really mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's kind of can I do this? Can I do this? Because there are still, rules and laws and, if I don't have, wings or the power of flight or a spell or whatever, I probably can't just, I'm gonna fly instead of walk. There's still rules and physics and stuff. Yeah. So I'm just but it was fun.
Good. I'm glad.
I killed 2 dinosaurs. And this was after I'd already been nearly eaten by a T-Rex.
I just came home and there was toy dinosaurs on the floor. And I didn't know what was going on. Yeah, so everyone, our entire mic situation just fell down as we tried to adjust, which was very fun. But don't worry, because my wine, which was sitting on the shelf,
is okay. And so is the iPad, which I guess is also important. Yeah, you gotta back up.
Anyways.
I mean, after all that, I'm just kind of exhausted. I'm just I don't even want to know.
Golly. Okay, I have a quick announcement that actually just happened a second ago. And it's a correction. And it's an Alcatraz correction.
Oh, snap.
I know. Okay. So I've told you this, but I haven't said anything on the podcast. So
I'm trying attacking your personality.
No. This is a good correction. I'm trying to figure out the quickest background to this. So, listeners, in the future, I do plan on doing a Sam Shockley bonus episode. And if you don't remember who Sam is, go back and listen. And
Sam is from the second.
He's from the first episode.
The first of our.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted so that people, if they don't want to listen to all 3, they can just go back to the first one to hear about Sam.
Yes.
We do talk about it in the second one, I think, but
probably. I talk about him every day, I feel like. So
I'm gonna get you a little locket and put his mugshot in it.
Oh my gosh. I'm sweating. So, anyways, I feel like he deserves his whole own episode, and I was doing my own research on him, and I found this blog that had like a lot of details about his life that I had not seen anywhere else. And so I reached out to the person who wrote it. Her name is Linda, and she had her email address on there, and this wasn't like me creeping to find her. She said like, contact me if you have questions. And she is so nice, and we have been corresponding for the last week or so. And she's been like telling me a ton of stuff, and I consider her like his unofficial biographer because she knows the family. She's like distantly related to them. A lot of her information comes from the family. Like she's very protective of the story. Anyways, she's also very knowledgeable about Alcatraz, obviously, and just a lot of the stuff in general. So some of the other stuff we're talking about is just other inmates and like the system in general and how it's messed up. So naturally, the first thing I had told her when I was like, hey, I came across your blog because I was researching for my podcast, and this is how it came about. So she eventually asked about the podcast. And at this point in our conversation, I was like, okay, well, this is what it is, but like, I don't really know if I want you to listen to the episodes because now I'm self-conscious about them. So I told her what it was, and I was like, listen, if you listen to them, just know, like, you'll hear me kind of learning as I go. And this is the thing. This is the danger I said, mind you, I research all of these in a week. So each one has a week's worth of research. And this is the danger you run into when you become obsessed with one of your topics, is you do a couple episodes on them, and then you spend the next 3 weeks
still researching.
reading everything you can about them. And then you worry that the episodes you did aren't up to snuff. And then a very well-researched person that you admire listens to your episodes and you freak out about it. Anyways, she messaged me today, like, I don't know, 30 minutes before you came over. And she said that she was listening to the episodes. And I was like, oh, okay, great. She's very nice about them. But she said, okay, in episode 2, which is where she's at, do you remember Burton Phillips, which we called Whitey Phillips? He was the one who was writing a book and asked the warden to read it, and the warden took it. Yes.
Warden dumbass.
Yes. And then he got mad and like attacked the warden, and then obviously got beat up. Apparently he was never called Whitey. That was an incorrect nickname. Huh. I double checked my source that I got that from, and it is in that source. But she says that a lot of times journalists would like give nicknames to inmates that like they didn't really go by.
That's so dumb.
Yeah, so she said Burton was not so named that, as far as I know. In any Alcatraz documents, he's not called that either. And then she sent me an article about him, and a picture of like his home, I think. She's very resourceful. Anyways, that's my correction. Sorry, Burton Phillips, not Whitey. I will try my best to correct any other things that come up.
So I have a special shout out.
Oh.
Actually, this wine tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Is brought to us by Mandy.
Mandy.
She's the other pharmacist that works with Shelton.
Does she listen?
She might now, because I told Shelton that I was bringing this wine tonight, and that I was going to give her a special shout out, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell her about it." So
great, Shelton, our greatest promoter, who also doesn't listen.
Doesn't listen. Jeez.
She's really nice. I've met her a few times.
Oh, I love Mandy. She's great.
Yeah. And she makes good wine. This isn't the first thing. You've brought one of her wines before, which is good.
I feel like I gave her a shout out then too. It's just been a while.
Yeah.
So I just don't remember.
Great pharmacist, great winemaker. What more could you ask for? If only she was single.
Yep.
All right. Well, today I am continuing my series that I invented on the true stories behind scary movies. And so I picked another one that I haven't seen. And I meant to watch it before we got here, and then this week happened.
Oh, this week.
And when I tell you I woke up this morning and thought it was Thursday, and it is in fact Tuesday.
I was about to be like, man, this week has been
a
so
week.
rough. And I'm like, it's Tuesday. I'm like, eek.
I think it's because this weekend just felt like...
Oh, this weekend was just so jam-packed, and it was just me
it wasn't
and Critter
restful
all weekend.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I don't know. I've my anxiety's been up and down, and
me too. It's past several days.
Yeah, and I've heard that from other people too. Like, there's something happening.
There's a vibe.
There's a vibe going on. Something's in
Something
retrograde.
is in the ether.
And then I'm getting ready for showcase, and so I'm just like tired all the time and don't have time for anything, and just, I don't know. Anyways, I meant to watch this movie. The movie in question is Child's Play.
Ah.
Have you seen it?
I don't think I've ever seen the whole thing.
Okay.
And it's been years and years. Like, I think I was a child. And it was one of those, like, I was probably too young to be watching it.
Right.
But I've definitely... I can remember, like, specific bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies that I would watch for an episode, but it's not really my kind of scary movie because I don't think it's scary. I mean, obviously I find dolls scary.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because it's a slasher kind of campy doll situation.
Yeah, and I think the reason I haven't been, like, itching to watch it is because dolls and clowns are kind of in, like, the same class for me, and I just don't wanna. But I enjoy the more campy things. Like, you know, slasher flicks are fine.
Yeah.
If they're not too gory.
Yeah.
Like, yes, anything campy, I'm pretty much down for.
Yeah. I say that, and then we watched Halloween Town this past weekend, which was, I mean, I guess not campy, but so great to watch.
Delightful.
And guys, can I say, Katie remembered the exact plot of both Halloween Town and Halloween Town 2.
And could quote with decent proficiency.
And it was amazing. Great person to watch those movies with.
Probably not.
No, it was. It was so fun. Okay. So the movie Child's Play came out in 1988. It was directed by Tom Holland and based on a story by Don Mancini.
Tom Holland. He's younger than I am, though, and that movie's older than I am.
I know. I hope I didn't write that wrong. Sometimes I do that. I'll, like, see a name and then just, like, subconsciously write it incorrectly, which I know I did in an Alcatraz episode. Oops. I hope Linda didn't catch that one. Anyways, so it's based on a story by Don Mancini, who also co-wrote the screenplay. It made $44.2 million at the box office, and it eventually got 7 sequels, including, like, a fairly recent one, I think.
Yeah. It's become kind of a cult classic.
That's my next line. It literally says became a cult classic, so Katie's taking another sip. All right, here's the plot. Serial killer Charles Lee Ray is running through the streets of Chicago, being pursued by cops. Technically, I think it's a detective who is chasing him, but same thing. He runs into a toy store, and then the detective catches up with him and shoots him. And as he is dying, he looks at a toy on the shelf, which happens to be a Good Guy talking doll. Good Guy is the brand or, like, the name of the doll. And he recites a, quote, voodoo incantation or spell that transfers his soul into the doll. And then the store gets struck by lightning.
Because voodoo.
It explodes, yeah. Later, Karen Barclay buys a Good Guy doll, but she's poor, sort of. And so she buys it secondhand from a peddler for her 6-year-old son, Andy, who really wants one, but she just can't afford, like, the store-bought one. Like, it's a talking doll, whatever. Like a...
pull the string.
Yeah.
Or push the button or whatever, and it has the pre-recorded things.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Teddy
a snake in my boot.
Yeah. Teddy Ruxpin is what I was trying to think of. So the doll tells Andy that his name is Chucky. But very soon, Chucky reveals to Andy only that his name is actually Charles Lee Ray. And then he starts killing people. And Andy tries to tell the adults that the doll is doing all of these harmful things and no one believes him, etc., etc. Blood, gore, drama. I'm not going to ruin
Chasing
the movie.
the little boy in his overalls.
Yes. I will not ruin the plot of the movie, the rest of the plot, but that is the basic concept. That is Kelly out in the hall. So, a couple... I didn't give you any pictures. I'm sorry.
I don't need pictures of Chucky. I'm good.
Well, there's a couple... I'll look at these pictures as we go. So there's a couple actual dolls that Chucky is kind of based on. And
we've talked about some of them, right?
Yes.
So like Annabelle and...
Yes, but there's a couple that he's based...
Patrick, was it?
No.
Oh.
But we're gonna talk about the one that you're thinking of.
Okay.
But there's some that he's based off, like, looks-wise.
Okay.
So the first one is called Corky the Doll. And that's what Corky looks like. So...
I can see the resemblance.
Yes. So Corky was produced by Playmates Toys in 1987. He was the counterpart or the little brother to a girl doll named Cricket. It was produced the year before. He has red curly hair and wears a yellow and red striped shirt underneath overalls. And he would say different phrases, whatever he said. And the phrases were voiced by a little boy child actor named Eden Gross. And fun fact, Eden Gross also was the voice of Friendly Chucky in the movies, and also made I think a cameo as a little boy in a commercial or something. And he was the voice of some other dolls in the other movies. So very consistent. And then the other doll that he's based looks-wise on is called the My Buddy doll, which we find him.
I'm so glad that dolls are kind of out of fashion. I know that there's obviously still Barbies, there's Bratz dolls.
Yeah.
There's Cabbage Patch Kids are still a thing. Just baby dolls in general, but they're much more geared towards girls.
Yeah.
So, not that it would ever be a problem if Walker wanted a doll.
Yeah.
But it's less likely that he will.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because last night at the studio, a couple of the girls there bring their kids. Two of the little girls actually participate and do the lyra and the stuff because we have kids classes. So they were there and they're 4 or 5 and 6. And then one of the girls just brings her daughter with her and she's 3. And they all brought dolls, baby dolls. So there were 5 or 6 baby dolls just lying all over the studio. Yeah. So some little girls still like them. A little creepy. Okay, this is the My Buddy doll. So he was pretty...
The outfit's adorable. It reminds me of Rainbow Bright and Mork from Mork.
It does. Chucky's outfit was taken from him. So My Buddy came out... he was produced by Hasbro in 1985. And he was intended to appeal to young boys specifically to teach them about caring for their friends.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's nothing wrong with boys playing with dolls.
Yeah. I agree.
But there's not,
There's not a market for it.
There
is a market for it. There's not... What are we saying?
Basically, there's Raggedy Ann, but Raggedy Andy is not produced as much kind of a thing. There's... some, girl baby doll or my, I had a My Twin doll or American Girl dolls.
Yeah.
They don't have American Boy dolls kind of thing.
They should. Well, yeah, I was going to say they should, but then I was ugh, who cares about boys in history? That's all we learn about in school.
Yeah, no more boys in history.
I like that we're here more boy toys. not boy toys. Sorry, more toys.
I'm fine with more boy toys.
More boy
Just
toys,
kidding.
but also more...
My husband doesn't listen to this podcast. I can say that.
Mine only edits it. Okay, let me describe my buddy for everyone who didn't just look at that picture. He's got brown hair. He wears a red baseball cap, and he wears a red, yellow, and blue striped shirt underneath red overalls. So he's very similar to Chucky. And then the doll that Mancini, did I say his name right? Mancini said that Chucky was actually based on, because these are just like, oh yeah, we took like the similar looks from these other two dolls. But the one that Mancini said he like was really inspired by, Cabbage Patch dolls. Did you have those?
I never had one, no.
Really?
No, I don't think I ever had one. No, I never had one. I had something very similar, because like when did Cabbage Patch dolls come out? Because I had something similar, but it was a toy that was a doll that was my mom's.
1982.
Okay, so then never mind.
Okay.
It's very similar.
Read the Wikipedia page for Cabbage Patch dolls. It's a wild ride.
I feel like I can remember somebody hearing that before.
Yeah. They were like kind of a stolen idea. So your mom might have had like the original doll that this guy like stole the idea from.
Her name was Yolanda Estelle.
Ooh, wow. Yolanda Estelle.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered the name of my Cabbage Patch doll.
I'm sure that doll is still... My dad did bring a bag of stuffed toys that I haven't fully gone through yet for Walker, because at the time he was still too young for them. Mm-hmm. And he still kind of is, because they all have like the hard eyes, the choking hazards. But Yolanda Estelle is probably still in his house.
Mm-hmm. I know that we had, my sister had one that was a boy Cabbage Patch doll. And I want to say his name was like Baby Ray or something, but that could be completely wrong. And then we both got it was like this special kind where you could like crimp their hair. Their hair was made out of like weird like waxed yarn, and you could crimp it. It was weird. I don't know. And then I have a troll doll. Never mind. That's not a Cabbage Patch doll. Anyway, everyone go read the Wikipedia page about Cabbage Patch dolls, because it is full of drama.
I'm going to go ahead and pull it up right now.
Okay. I'm going
to read later.
I'm going to give you a quick summation of the important parts. They were originally produced by Coleco Industries in 1982. Later, they were sold to Hasbro, and then to Mattel, and then to Toys R Us, and then to Play Along, and then to Jakks Pacific, and now they are currently owned by Wicked Cool Toys. So they have been bought by a lot of companies. They're the longest running doll franchise in the United States, which doesn't seem right, because I feel like Barbie has been around for longer, but whatever. They set every toy industry sales record for 3 years straight, which I'm assuming was in the 80s. And the thing that I remember about Cabbage Patch dolls that made them so special was that you don't buy them, you adopt them. Mm-hmm. And if you go on the Cabbage Patch website, you can get, like, you can pay a lot of money for a Cabbage Patch doll. Like, you can get one for, like, $200 and something. Like American Girl doll prices.
Yeah.
Like, why you would want to, I don't know. They're very ugly dolls. Mm-hmm. But I digress. So, this story of Chucky, right? Of a doll that is possessed
by the spirit of somebody.
By the spirit of somebody per a, quote, voodoo spell, and then terrorizes everyone. Mm-hmm. That sounded a little familiar to you. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's because we've talked about it before.
That's what I said.
I know. That was Robert the doll.
Robert.
And...
Not Patrick.
Not Patrick. But I love the idea of a Patrick the doll. Yeah. It's Robert's baby brother. We talked about Robert the doll in episode 37, Haunted Dolls. And I'm going to talk about him again because it's been 150 episodes since then, and maybe you guys didn't listen to that one. Okay.
You haven't made it back that far in the archive.
Yeah. And maybe don't, because I don't remember how good we were then. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say that Mancini says that he did not get his story from Robert the Doll.
Okay.
I'm just going to put that out there. Okay. Do you need a refresher of what Robert looks like?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
absolutely don't. Was he in the sailor suit?
Yep. He was in the and
no.
he's holding that little dog.
Yeah.
It's got like the
And
big eyes.
His face is...
Like blank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Void.
Void of...
Yeah. Don't need a refresher on Robert.
Okay. All right. So in the early 1900s, in Key West, Florida, a boy named Eugene Robert Otto, also known as Gene, received a 40-inch tall doll that he named Robert after himself. Because why wouldn't you do that? By most credible accounts, Robert the doll was a gift from his grandfather during a trip his grandfather made to Germany. But a lot of like spooky versions of the story will suggest that a family servant gave Robert this doll. And actually, according to the Artist House website, which the Artist House is the name of the house where Robert grew up, or where Gene grew up, and I guess Robert too, the doll. According to that website, a young Bohemian girl gave 4-year-old Gene the doll in 1904, possibly as a gift and possibly as, quote, retaliation for a wrongdoing. Which, it's like, but very most likely his grandfather gave it to him, so I don't really know where those stories are coming from. Okay, Robert was actually probably never meant to be a toy. He was probably meant to be a window display, which this to me sounds even more terrifying. They think he was likely part of a set of clowns or jesters that were meant to sit in your window.
No.
Lots of questions.
No.
Why?
No, I have no questions. I'm just gonna disagree with it.
Why would you have those in your window?
No, you wouldn't. Because, no.
And why have you now separated them?
No.
And where are the others?
No.
And what are their names?
No.
And what do they think?
No.
Okay. I did not remember this fact. The sailor suit that Robert is seen wearing, that is actually one of Gene's old outfits.
I did remember that. I remember there was something about the sailor outfit.
Yeah.
I was
creepy.
like, that's not his
He didn't come
original or his only outfit. I couldn't remember if that it was just an extra outfit or there was something.
It makes me wonder what he arrived in. What was his
Obviously nothing as fabulous as the sailor suit.
I mean, was he naked?
Unlikely. Maybe if he came from Germany, then lederhosen.
Or did he come dressed as a clown or a jester? There is a picture you can find of Gene as a child wearing the sailor costume, which I find a little disturbing. I don't like it. Okay, so young Gene becomes obsessed with this doll, which is first he becomes obsessed with him in kind of a normal child way because
this is my new friend.
Yes, because he's 4 and whatever. So he takes him.
Is he an only child too?
No, I think he has a sister, maybe.
Okay.
But
older sister or younger sister?
I don't know.
Oh. Well, it might be he's my brother.
Yeah. And I think I get the impression that they're pretty well off. I don't know. I don't want to make assumptions. So he takes Robert everywhere with him. He talks to him, and he would talk about him like he was real. And
that all sounds... I mean, I'm not a child behaviorist or anything like that, but that all sounds very normal to me.
Right. And then Gene would begin to blame little things on Robert, which again
sounds normal
is
to
normal,
me.
right?
Yes.
It would be
when children start learning how to lie.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's
all that.
Oh, I didn't break that glass. Robert broke it. Normal, everything's fine.
Again, sounds normal to me.
Yes. However, things started getting a little bit more serious. For one, Gene did not grow out of his attachment to Robert. So he just, like, continued to be just as attached to this doll as he got older. One night when he was 10, so he's 10 years old and he's still just as attached to this doll as he was when he was 4. So one night his parents woke up in the middle of the night to Gene screaming, and they ran into his room and they found all of the furniture overturned and, like, the room was trashed, and Gene is, like, cowering on the bed and Robert is just sitting on the end of the bed. And Gene, of course, says, Robert did it.
Which, I don't know, is more believable, but the idea that a 10-year-old boy could ransack a room like this, I mean, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
But how likely is it?
Yeah, it's...
Then again, how likely is it that a doll...
Yeah, that's true. It's
So,
like, what's the other probability here? His parents would report hearing Gene talking to someone upstairs, and they would hear an unfamiliar voice answering him. And I also read this as, like, the servants would hear him talking and hear him answering himself in a different voice. So whether some people thought it was a separate person talking back or just him changing his voice to talk back.
I mean, I remember playing with my Barbies and stuff and, you know, definitely changing my voice to, you know, like, as I made my dolls talk.
Yeah,
so, like,
true.
That sounds normal and fair.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I'm just trying to think back to me when I was 10. You know, I remember I was, you know, I was making clothes for my American Girl doll. So I was still, like, playing with dolls.
Yeah.
And, like, I didn't really have an attachment to the dolls.
Yeah.
More so, like, stuffed animals.
Yeah, same.
And they had names, but none of them at that point, like, had personalities or anything.
Yeah.
And, like, I might travel with them. Mm-hmm. You know, I would definitely sleep with my animals at night. And by that, I mean I would put them in the bed, and by morning, they'd all be either off of the bed or shoved to the foot of the bed because I was a wild sleeper as a kid. And I remember, I was trying to remember how old I was. I think it was older than 10, but probably not much. Going to the zoo with my grandparents one year, and I got a little, like, stuffed monkey that, you know, the arms and legs had Velcro on the hands and feet, so you could, like, strap them places and wear them. And
my sister had one of those.
My grandfather built furniture all the time. And so we built a little monkey house for my monkey. And so, like, you know, at no point did I ever, like, truly pretend that it was a real monkey or even see in my imagination it as a real monkey. It was just like, this is fun to make a house for a little monkey.
Yeah. Well, and, I mean, I think that is all very normal.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I have no idea what age I stopped. Because I used to do that with Beanie Babies. Me and my friend, my childhood friend, would play that, you know, would play with Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
And, you know, they all had personalities and voices and names and stuff. And, I mean, I've got my childhood teddy bears in my bed right now. I mean, obviously he came with me when I left home, but his name is Teddy. He is a polar bear. I got him when I was 2. And when I'm having a bad day or a bad week, he helps to cuddle with. But
so I'm just trying to sit here and think about, like, well, where's the line of what's normal and what's not normal?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the line is much further back for boys than it is for girls. Like, yeah, little boys can play with their dolls up to a certain age. Kind of like little boys can cry up to a certain age. And all of that is bull.
Yeah, that's all just, like, projected gender roles where it's the same as little boys shouldn't be playing with dolls, or like little boys shouldn't cry or show their emotions. And it's like, well, no, they're little human beings, and so you know,
feelings.
It's not necessarily not normal for this 10-year-old to still be emotionally attached for whatever reason to this doll.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm just
causing a disaster and blaming, you know, causing a big disaster and blaming it on the doll.
That's the weird part
weird.
For me.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, even though I had, like, this kind of chest that was like my doll storage for all my American Girl doll, clothes and accessories, and even her. And like I remember, when my mom was in the hospital for the last time, I remember sitting in my room and spending all day like starting to teach myself how to sew. I mean, she'd already kind of taught me, so I kind of knew, but like making clothes for her and making a sleeping bag for her. But if I had gotten mad and frustrated and like wrecked my room, I would not have said the doll did it.
Yeah, true.
So,
but yeah, I didn't think of that though. Like if you had just gotten upset for some reason and wrecked your room, I could see a different child, maybe not you, but like another child who maybe didn't want to get in trouble and who was then upset with themselves afterwards, saying the doll did. I don't know. Especially if you named the doll after yourself.
I think that's a younger kid thing. When he first started doing it, a couple, like a year or two of maybe blaming the doll. But then I think you definitely get to a certain age that it's still totally fine to play with the doll, but like you understand that it's just a doll. It's just a toy.
Yeah, true.
And your play style changes. Like the way you play with it.
Yeah, true.
Long ass tangent about dolls and playing there, but too much of a peek into my childhood.
Oh, that's okay. So Jean's parents. It's confusing.
Technically Robert.
Jean's parents also claimed to see Robert's expression change, which we can talk about that if we want to. They also claimed to hear and see him talk, which I don't know how they saw him talk, but I wrote that down, so I don't know. And then they also reported seeing him run up the stairs and hearing him giggle.
Yeah, that's the creepy parts.
Yeah.
Like, I love Critter's giggle. I really wish I could get a good, clean recording of it and make it like my ringtone or a text tone or something. But
okay, 2006.
Huh? Yeah.
Your ringtone.
I know that in like 10 years, his giggle's gonna sound very different.
Yeah.
And if I were to hear his giggle now when he's older and like that would just creep me out. Basically, hearing a like young child's giggle or like any child's giggle when there is no child is very creepy.
For example, if we were to hear a young child giggle right now,
I would be freaking out.
I
would
little bit. Maybe lock all the doors and maybe throw both these dolls outside that are sitting here.
Yeah, especially since the motion light keeps going on.
I don't love that.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it.
Oh gosh, maybe it's defective.
Yeah.
And I don't love that. I mean, I know Kelly does this all the time when it's just us here, but I don't love that she's whining at the door. And I was going to wait till the end. I don't love that all of our stuff fell down and we had all these malfunctions right before the episode where we're talking about Robert the doll, but...
And there's the hobo doll up there and the creepy baby doll and the bunny's staring at me.
The bunny is normal.
He looks evil though. The way his head is tilted down at me and the way his fur is aligned, it looks like he has like angry evil eyes looking down at me.
He was
like,
one of my comfort bunnies. Did I bring him in here specifically for that bunny episode? Is that the only reason he's in here?
So.
Okay. I was going to say, he's a good bunny.
Well, you need to just sit in my seat and look up at him and be like, okay, from this angle, little ominous.
He came in a tub that my parents brought when they just start bringing stuff from their attic every time they visit.
My dad's not allowed to visit if he does that again. Still recovering from like the last 3 visits.
Oh, man. At least you have a child to give your stuff to. Mine's just... me. Mine is just me going through it and being like, ooh, let me keep this out and look through it for a week and then find a place for it. Okay. So they also, besides seeing Robert's expression change, which I think that could be just psychological on their parts.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, how does it change? Does it change and then stay that way?
Yeah.
Or is it more of a flicker kind of a thing where they're like, did he just like scowl at me and then now he's back to his oddly blank face?
I would imagine that they would like come in the room and be in a certain state of mind and be like, Robert looks like he's smirking at me, or Robert looks like he's angry at me.
More
or something. Yeah.
Power of suggestion.
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
Especially if your kid's constantly going on and on, acting, talking like Robert's real.
Yes.
You're probably starting to think of Robert.
Yes, exactly.
In those terms.
And then finally, they would find, quote, mutilated toys around the house, which Jean would, of course, claim that Robert had done that to the toys.
Yeah.
Which, I know we're being very skeptical, but, like, so far, besides claiming that you saw a doll run up the stairs,
yeah,
so far everything is, like, pretty explainable.
Yeah, and that all sounds like normal child behavior to maybe he might have too strong of an attachment for his age at some points. Again, I'm not like a child psychologist or whatever.
You are a scientist, though.
Who knows what is going on in his life that might, potentially be causing stress, and therefore he's seeking comfort in this attachment kind of a thing.
He probably could have benefited from a therapist. Probably. He may have been going to one. I don't know. So as Jean grew, like, into a young adult, his attachment to Robert stayed the same. And he took Robert with him when he moved out. And after his parents passed away, he moved back into their home with his now wife and with Robert. And Jean's wife was, like, not a fan of this 3-foot doll that he brought everywhere. So she convinced Jean that Robert needed to go live in the attic. And surprisingly, Jean agreed to this and put Robert in the attic. And after the move to the attic, visitors to the house would report hearing footsteps in the attic and, quote, a devilish giggle coming from up there. Which, no thanks. I used to get really scared at my parents' house that, because I used to think, and I'm sure it was pipes, but I used to think that I could hear footsteps in the attic above my bed, and I used to just convince myself that there was, like, a man up there. And of course, the door to the attic, like the pull whatever ladder thing, was right outside my bedroom door. And that was the only, like, it was my bedroom door and a closet and then a hallway. So, like, if someone was coming out of the attic, I could not get out of my room.
Same. But at least the steps were going, they were walking away from my room.
True. That's true. And I did have, like, I thought a lot about how I could get out my window. And if the van was parked just in the right spot, I could maybe jump there. So people would also report seeing Robert looking out of the upstairs bedroom window at them when they were on the street. So not out of the attic window, out of the bedroom window. And when Jean went to check and make sure that he was still in the attic, he would find Robert in his old bedroom looking out the window. Which my explanation would be Jean took him out of the attic and put him in the bedroom and was like, oh, how did you get down here?
I'm wondering if Jean didn't have, like, multiple personalities.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about multiple personality disorder. Like, I know that there's still so much that we don't know about it, and I feel like it's, different case by case, but I thought that anyone who had multiple personalities had multiple.
Yeah.
Like, not just Jean and Robert.
Yeah.
But it would be Jean and Robert and,
someone else.
Samantha.
Patrick.
And Patrick. And old Greg.
Old Greg.
I was just trying to think of something old.
Yeah.
So, like, multiples, not. But.
Yeah. And I also. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much on Jean's mental health, but this is, besides the footsteps in the attic and the giggling from the attic, unless it's all happening when Jean is conveniently not there, everything else to me is having an explanation. So Robert remained at the house even after Jean passed away. So Robert, like, lives in the house. In 1974, when the house was sold, Robert stayed in the house, and the new owner, Myrtle Reuter, found him. Like a fun surprise.
I would not be happy if I went up into the attic, especially if it was, like, sitting on a chair, just like it was sitting perched and ready and waiting.
I know.
I would be like, and we're leaving.
Although,
if we ever for some reason buy another house, next time we're like house shopping, I'm gonna be like, can we just go check the attic real quick? I just want to make sure there's no, like, creepy dolls waiting for us.
Okay, but when we move, when we sell this house, I'm 100% putting something creepy in the attic.
Oh, you should definitely put Jock and Isabel up there.
I'm very much afraid of what they will do to me if I leave them behind.
That's true. Maybe you should get a special doll just to leave.
Yeah,
One that isn't attached to you.
I have, you know how I buy random antique photos? I had one, and it had no significance to me at all. And I forget why I had it up in the attic, and I just, like, tossed it off into the area up here that doesn't have floors. So I'm hoping that one day someone will find it and just be like, who are these two men from 1901?
It's kind of like taking a rock that's, like, obviously, like, from some, geological significance and bringing it to another place.
Yeah.
That it's like, what is this, volcanic rock doing here?
You're like, just to f*** someone.
In the middle of a swamp?
Yeah, I would totally do that. But yeah, I totally would leave a doll behind. But just to f*** someone, not like
I should definitely do that with our house now whenever we move.
Yeah.
Because it's so old.
Yeah. Like, put stuff in the floorboard. I'm kind of surprised that Robert didn't insist on, like, or that Jean didn't insist on, like, being buried with Robert or something. Like, it seems...
The attachment level.
Yeah.
Well, he probably didn't want Robert to, have to just be forever in the dark, It's worse than the attic.
I don't like that.
Well, also, I mean...
I hate the idea that doll is just immortal and conscious forever. Gross.
Robert probably hates it, too.
That's probably true. We should feel bad for Robert.
Yeah.
Robert probably hates it, too. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so Myrtle discovers Robert and is like, oh, I'm going to keep you, I guess, as part of the house. And so she keeps him, and I guess she, like, puts him on display. Maybe she puts him in the window like he was supposed to be. But while he's there, visitors to her house claim to hear footsteps and giggling.
Maybe that's just the house's noise.
Yeah, maybe the house giggles. That's hilarious.
I mean, kind of like how you said, you thought it was footsteps, but it was just pipes or whatever. Like, it's probably just some other noise in the house.
Yeah. Maybe there's, like, a weird, like, hole or depression or something where when the wind goes through it, it makes, like, a giggling sound.
Who knows?
Yeah. That'd be hilarious if it was just the house this whole time. It's like, the house is not the doll.
Because I mean, when Robert moved out and, like, eventually got married and was living with his wife and Robert, did she hear the giggling and the footsteps?
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, there's nothing about that. There's no like, no one reports on what Jean experienced when he was away with Robert.
I'm just saying that, like, correlation does not equal causation.
That's true.
But all of the stories about Robert being, impish in the house.
It's true. It's true. Myrtle also said that Robert's expression would change. Which, whatever. And when... and Myrtle also said that Robert would move around the house on his own. Which, I don't know. I don't have stuff like that happen, but, like... I feel like everyone's...
There's a gas leak in this house, and people are hallucinating footsteps and giggles. They're hallucinating the facial expressions, and they're moving the doll from room to room, but forget that they've moved the doll, and they're like, "Oh, how'd you get in here?"
I mean, you've heard Jarek's one, like, paranormal experience in his old apartment with the plant that, like, he was taking a shower, And he got out of the shower, and this fake house plant was just in the bathroom with him, which sounds hilariously stupid.
But also, like, anything that is in a different place than when you went, especially while you were doing something so vulnerable as
showering.
bathing.
Yeah. And it freaked him out enough that he had his neighbor, which was our friend at the time, come over and he brought like a shotgun, and they like went up into the attic, and this was like a terrible, creepy apartment anyways, because Jarek thought that he had like someone in the apartment. And my explanation for it was always, Jarek was working, I think, third shift at the time, and was just like not sleeping ever because he worked like midnight to whatever. And
I remember that time.
And my explanation was always just that he was so sleep deprived that he did it and didn't remember it. And I like to tell myself that was still the case, because also when we moved into another apartment, like when we moved in together and before I got to that apartment, he said something similar happened, and I was like, but maybe it was also just you being sleep deprived and not the ghost following you. You know,
you throw in some a little bit of ADHD and that whole sleep deprivation delirium.
Yeah.
It's definitely a recipe for, I don't remember putting that there.
Yeah. That's what I'm hoping it is, because otherwise, that's a creepy ghost. So, I don't know. Maybe Myrtle has a little ADHD. Maybe she wasn't sleeping well. Maybe there's a gas leak. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. In 1994, Myrtle donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum, which is where he lives now. He's on display there. And staff members there report seeing his expression change, which I think that also has a lot to do with light now. And visitors to the museum blame Robert for mishaps that happened to them after leaving, especially when they have either insulted him or not asked his permission to take his picture, or just like been disrespectful in some way. Visitors have reported camera malfunctions when trying to take his pictures. I will say, and that's why We Drink did an episode on him, they won't say his full name. They call him, what is it?
Bobby?
No, they call him, RTB. I was trying to get the initial straight in my head and my brain. Is that right?
RBT?
Robert the doll. RTD. Sorry, what did I say?
RTB?
Oh my gosh. It's been a long week. A long 2 days. Anyways, they call him by his initials. And then I think the last episode where they mentioned him, because they say that because the episode where they did on him, they had listeners write in and say that they had like crazy mishaps happen while they were listening or whatever. The last time they mentioned him was a listener episode, and they had like an audio thing happen at the end when they were talking about him. And as our stupid microphone was falling off the shelf and everything, I was like, man, I'm not talking about Robert the doll after this. And he knows it. He knows I'm going to talk about him. So anyways, I'm not saying that that's real. I think that was just me manifesting. Robert also receives a ton of mail and emails. And a lot of them are often apologies for insulting him. Like something bad happened to someone, and so they've written him to apologize. Oh my gosh. The curator of the museum, her name is Corey Covertito. She spends a lot of time with Robert, and she does not believe that he's haunted. And by a lot of time, she reads all of his letters and emails. She takes him out of his case once a year to weigh him, and I guess
maybe clean him if he needs
maintenance. She also runs his social media pages, and occasionally she will correspond on his behalf when children write to him. And this is a quote.
What do children write to him about?
No.
How do children know about him?
I know. I don't know.
I have the only way that Critter's ever going to find out about him, from at least from me, is through this podcast.
I don't know how children find out about him, but I want to say maybe children write and like ask him questions or advice. I don't know. This is a quote from her though. She said, "Gene always had a childlike temperament around him, and we feel like Robert would want to be kind to children." So in her eyes, she thinks Robert, if anything, is like a kind spirit.
I'm sure it's one of those. He seems mischievous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he likes kids.
Yeah.
But very kind of impish and just kind of mischievous, you know, play little tricks on the adults.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like, nothing we've really talked about has been evil or, like, you know, nefarious or...
The, like, you know, most intense thing was tearing the room apart.
Yeah.
Or, you know, not tearing it apart, but, like...
Yeah, flipping things over. And,
yeah.
Which very easily could have been a game that they were playing.
Yeah.
Or it could have been
a temper tantrum.
Yeah. Could have been either one of them.
Because I was like, man, you know, a kid couldn't do that. But then as I was saying it, I was also like, no, I'm pretty sure I've actually seen videos of children throwing temper tantrums by, like, throwing furniture around and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm like,
true.
Maybe.
Within the whole Robert the Doll legend, there has always been speculation and always some part of the legend that says that the servant girl or the servant or girl that allegedly gifted this doll to Gene was mistreated by the family or had some kind of bone to pick with them, and she hexed the doll as retribution for the abuse that she suffered. And many stories claim that she used, quote, voodoo to hex the doll and cause it to be haunted or possessed by a spirit.
Possible. I mean, the location of Key West.
Right, yeah.
Highly possible that there's, and likely that there's, you know, voodoo practitioners around.
Right. Now that we've talked about, like, how Robert seems, like, more mischievous than anything, it seems unlikely that it would be, like, a curse placed on... And, like, if you're
Unless it was, like, you know, all the time, it was, like, really stressing the family out.
Yeah. And then also, like...
making them think they're crazy.
If you're trying to curse the family, why would you just curse this doll and give it to a child?
Right.
And then the doll is forever... I don't know.
Child's innocent.
I know.
Unless he's not.
Unless
he was...
Yeah. Unless the child... Unless Gene...
But also, if Gene got him at, you know, such a young age, like, he's definitely innocent.
Yeah, he's a child. So, like I said at the beginning, Mancini claims that Child's Play was not inspired by Robert the Doll. This is a quote. This is an extended quote. So he claims that Child's Play was inspired by, quote, how marketers stoked kids' needs to have the latest, hottest commodity. And then this is a full quote. Mm-hmm. Because of my exposure to the world of advertising and marketing through my dad, I was very aware from an early age of the cynicism inherent in the world, particularly selling products to children. Madison Avenue refers to children as consumer trainees, and I discovered that as a child. I thought I wanted to write a dark satire about how advertising affects children. And my response to that is, okay, sure.
I
But
think he missed that mark a little bit.
I think he missed the mark. And also...
I mean, there's definitely... the flavor is in there. Like, that's one of the flavors.
I don't feel like that's the flavor at all. Like,
it's in there. It's like a...
In that the child wanted a toy and his mother bought it for him.
And... I don't know,
and then evil came from the toy.
Yeah, the downfall of, you know, giving in to...
I feel like you would get that more from the NSYNC music video where they're dolls in the store. Like, that gives more vibes than this. And then also, like, your movie also happens to have the exact storyline of a 119-year-old haunted doll. Like, okay, but you didn't take the story from that. You just happen to have the exact same storyline. It's that you embellished a little bit because your doll killed people and this one just kind of played tricks and giggled.
Ran around a lot. Stomped around a lot, if you could We hear all these footsteps.
No. So the official story is that Don Mancini was not inspired by Robert the Doll. He was inspired by consumerism or whatever, and Cabbage Patch dolls. But
maybe he doesn't think he was inspired
by
Robert, but
what I'm going with for this episode is Robert the Doll inspired Child's Play. And that's...
Is he saying that rampant consumerism will be the death of us?
Well, rampant consumerism didn't cause the serial killer to cast a spell putting his soul into this doll.
That's true. I think if his soul was put there by somebody else as like punishment or something.
Yeah. If he hadn't been a serial killer,
still,
if he hadn't been a serial killer and he had been like a CEO, like a greedy CEO,
yep,
and as punishment for his greediness, and he's running a sweatshop or something as punishment for that, his
Ebenezer Scrooge style.
Yeah, his soul was put into a doll for something. I could see that working in that way, but this clearly is.
We need to watch it next movie night.
We should. I think so.
And then we're just gonna sit there with notebooks and be ready to analyze this.
This is gonna be like what was that movie we watched at your house?
Ghost Ship
with everyone, where we were the only ones
trying to watch it, trying to take notes. I definitely did start out trying to take some notes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, we cannot watch movie night with a large group of people.
Well, the next one that I have on the docket is a movie that I have seen finally, because this one will come out this one comes out the week before Halloween, and then the very next one will come out the day after Halloween, because I figured close enough we can keep it in spooky season. And so I have seen that movie, and I am going to rewatch it because it's one that I remember enjoying. So I'm at least going to do my research there. But that's the story of Child's Play and Robert the Doll, and please do not let anything else fall. We keep glancing.
Benny is looking mighty tempted to come and just dive bomb me.
And poor Kelly is mad because it's an hour past her dinner time. Anyways, you're trying to do the socials. Get back on that.
That's what you pay me for.
I know.
So even though I did not want to have any refresher photos of Robert the Doll tonight, I'm sure Hannah will post them as well as the other inspo similar doll photos. And you can find that on our Facebook and Instagram at the Tales We Tell podcast. If you want to check out the photos but you don't do the social media, go to our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. And if you want to support us and get some sweet, sweet swag, you should go to Redbubble, search The Tales We Tell. We've got a couple different logo designs, and you can put that on anything. And if you want to support us but you don't need the stuff, you can become patrons at patreon.com. Search The Tales We Tell. You get early access, commercial-free listening, sometimes some fun bonus content. We send out love notes and stickers, and it's a good time over there. And we really, really, really appreciate it because we apparently need to upgrade our mic.
Oh my gosh. Where we can do 2 mics and also have headphones.
Yeah.
And not
have things falling on us.
Oh gosh. Anyways, well, it's gonna be over a week until we record again.
It's gonna be weird again.
I know, but we'll see each other before then, so it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys
in a week
next week. I'll see you in less than a week.
That's right.
Okay. Ready?
Bye.